The smoke detector screamed at 3:11 a.m. Caroline Peterson's eyes snapped open in the darkness. Not the low battery chirp. The full alarm. The one that meant get out now. She smelled it before she saw it. Bitter, chemical, wrong. Smoke. Brooks was already moving, grabbing his phone, the glow lighting his panicked face. Fire. Kitchen. Caroline's bare feet hit the floor, and she ran. Down the hallway. Margot's door. No, not Margot's regular room. The guest room. They'd moved her yesterday. The electrician had shut off power to her bedroom. Said the wiring was dangerous. Said nobody sleeps there until it's fixed. Margot was sitting up when Caroline burst through the door, clutching Mr. Patches, her eyes huge and confused. Mama. We're going outside, baby. Right now. Caroline scooped her up, felt Brooks's hand on her back, pushing them toward the stairs. But Kodiak wasn't following them. The Siberian Husky stood at Margot's old bedroom door, the one at the end of the hall, clawing at the wood. His howl cut through the alarmed shriek. Raw, desperate, the sound of an animal who'd seen this before. Kodiak. Brooks shouted. Come. The dog didn't move. Caroline could see orange light flickering at the bottom of the stairwell. Hear the fire crackling below, hungry and fast. Brooks, get Margot out. I'll get the dog. Caroline. Go. Brooks ran with Margot in his arms, her small voice calling Cody. Cody, as they disappeared down the stairs. Caroline grabbed Kodiak's collar. 80 pounds of muscle and terror, immovable. Kodiak, we have to. Then she remembered. Margot's closet. The gasoline cans she'd stored there 6 months ago, meaning to move them to the garage, forgetting until this exact moment. If the fire reached those cans, the whole house would explode. She yanked Margot's door open. Smoke poured in from the hallway, thick and black. She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, but she felt her way to the closet, grabbed the first can, stumbled back. Kodiak was there. He took the can's handle in his teeth, not running toward safety, running toward the master bedroom window, the one that opened onto the garage roof. Caroline grabbed the second can and followed her dog through smoke so thick she was moving blind, trusting him to know the way out. The window. Fresh air. Brooks's voice from below. Caroline. She shoved both cans through the window onto the roof, climbed through after them. Kodiak jumped down. She followed, and firefighters were there, hands reaching, helping her down the ladder. On the lawn, Brooks held Margot tight. The little girl's face was buried in his shoulder. Caroline collapsed onto the grass beside them, lungs burning, and watched their house burn. But they were alive, because a dog who'd failed before had refused to fail again. 3 weeks earlier, 3-year-old Margot Peterson woke screaming at 2:47 a.m., and Caroline knew immediately. This wasn't a normal nightmare. She ran down the hallway of their Greenwich, Connecticut home, Brooks stumbling behind her. They burst into Margot's room, expecting an intruder, blood, something to justify that sound. Instead, their daughter sitting upright in bed, tears streaming, pointing across the room. At Kodiak. The Siberian Husky stood frozen in the middle of the floor, Margot's stuffed giraffe, Mr. Patches, clenched in his jaws. His blue eyes gleamed in the nightlight's glow, wild and unblinking. He tried to take me. Margot sobbed. Cody tried to take me away. Caroline's blood went cold. This wasn't the first time. It was just the first time Margot had woken up. For 3 weeks, Margot's things had been vanishing. Hair clips found under the living room couch. Socks behind the washing machine in the basement. Her toy medical kit discovered in the garage, 30 feet from any entrance. Caroline had blamed herself. Mom brain, exhaustion, the chaos of raising a toddler while Brooks worked 70-hour weeks. But then she'd started noticing the pattern. Items only disappeared from Margot's room. They always reappeared far from where they should be. And Margot cried every time, insisting, I didn't move it, Mama. Kodiak had changed too. The dog who'd once been Margot's shadow now paced the house at night. Caroline would wake at 3 a.m. to the sound of his nails clicking on hardwood, an endless circuit. Kitchen hallway to Margot's door and back. She'd find him stationed outside Margot's bedroom, head on his paws, eyes wide open in the darkness. Not sleeping, watching. When she caught him trying to drag Margot's toy chest across the floor, gripping the handle in his teeth, his paws scrambling for purchase, Brooks had dismissed it. Huskies are protective. He's guarding her. But Caroline had seen something else in Kodiak's eyes. Not protection. Desperation. "Kodiak, drop it," Caroline said now, positioning herself between the dog and her daughter. The husky's jaw relaxed. Mr. Patches hit the floor. But Kodiak didn't back away. He just stood there trembling, staring at Margot with an expression Caroline had never seen on a dog's face before. Absolute, bone-deep terror. As if he could see something coming that no one else could see yet. Something he'd seen before. The baby monitor arrived 2 days later. Caroline mounted it high in Margot's room, angling it to capture everything. Brooks noticed when he got home. "You're really doing this? 3 weeks of missing things, and our daughter terrified?" "Yes, I'm doing this." That night, Caroline sat in bed with her laptop, the monitor streaming live. Margot slept peacefully. Kodiak lay on his bed in the corner, but his eyes were open. At 3:14 a.m., he stood. Caroline watched him cross the room, slow, careful, each step deliberate. He reached Margot's bed and gently took the blanket's edge in his teeth. Pulled. Margot stirred but didn't wake as Kodiak dragged the blanket to his own bed, arranging it in a careful circle. Then he returned to his position by the door and stared. Caroline's hand shook. She watched until dawn, but Kodiak didn't move again. The second night, 2:58 a.m., he took Margot's slippers. One at a time, carried them out of the room. Caroline switched to her phone, following him through the house via the hallway camera. He placed them under Caroline's own bed in the master bedroom. The third night was worse. 3:07 a.m. Kodiak approached Margot's bed, but this time he didn't take an object. He grasped Margot's pajama sleeve in his teeth and pulled. Margot's arm lifted. Her body shifted toward the bed's edge. Caroline nearly screamed, nearly ran to stop him. But Margot's eyes opened. "No, Cody," she mumbled. "Sleeping." He released her immediately and backed away. And the look on his face, if dogs could look heartbroken, that was it. Caroline checked the timestamps on all 3 recordings. 3:14 a.m., 2:58 a.m., 3:07 a.m. A 17-minute window. Every night. Like clockwork. This wasn't random. This wasn't playful misbehavior. This was a schedule. Kodiak was preparing for something. Evacuating Margot's room piece by piece, item by item, as if he knew something was coming. As if he'd been through this before. And whatever it was, it happened at 3 a.m. Caroline showed Brooks the footage of breakfast. He watched twice, his jaw tightening. "We need to return him." Margot's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. "Brooks, he's trying to pull our daughter out of bed." "Caroline, what happens when he succeeds? When she falls and hits her head?" He pointed at the screen. "This could escalate. He's not aggressive. I don't care. Margot shouldn't be afraid in her own home." The chair scraped. They turned to find Margot in the doorway, tears already falling. "Don't send Cody away." Her voice cracked. "Please." Brooks softened but held firm. "Sweetheart, Cody's not feeling well. He's scared." Margot wiped her nose. "Like when I have bad dreams. His eyes look scared, Daddy." Caroline knelt, pulled Margot close. "Baby, what makes you think Cody's scared?" "His eyes look like mine when the thunder comes. He's trying to help, but he doesn't know how." After Brooks left for work, Caroline sat on the floor watching Kodiak through the doorway. The husky watched back. Her mother called an hour later. "How's my girl?" "Mom, do you know any veterinary behaviors?" Caroline explained everything. The missing items, the nighttime routine, Margot's fear, Brooks's ultimatum. "Dr. Amara Okonkwo," her mother said after a long pause. "Greenwich. Supposedly the best. A beat. But Caroline, if this dog is showing aggression, he's not aggressive. He's desperate. There's a difference. Then you better find out what he's desperate about." Caroline made the appointment for the next morning. Brooks had given her until Friday, 4 days, to figure out what was wrong. 4 days to save her dog. That afternoon, Margot asked if Cody was going away. "Not if I can help it," Caroline said. Margot went to Kodiak's bed and sat beside him. The husky stayed still, watching the little girl with those impossibly sad eyes. "It's okay to be scared," Margot told him, patting his head. "Mama says brave doesn't mean not scared. It means doing it anyway." Kodiak's tail thumped once against the floor. Caroline grabbed her phone and took a picture. Margot and Kodiak sitting together, the afternoon sun streaming through the window. She didn't know it then, but she'd look at that photo 100 times in the coming days, trying to remember what peace felt like. Dr. Amara Okonkwo's clinic smelled like antiseptic and lavender. Kodiak had been calm in the car, calm in the waiting room. But the moment they crossed into the examination room, his entire body went rigid. Now he pressed against Caroline's legs, trembling. Danbury Animal Rescue. 18 months ago, Dr. Okonkwo said, scrolling through his file. And the behavior started 3 weeks ago. Yes. Removal of items from my daughter's room. Nighttime only. Always between 2:50 and 3:15 a.m. The vet set down her tablet. Mrs. Peterson, did the rescue tell you how he came to them? Found wandering Route 7. No collar. No chip. They thought he'd been abandoned. Dr. Okonkwo stood abruptly. Excuse me. She left, and Caroline heard low voices in the hallway. When she returned, her professional calm had cracked. I need you to see something. She turned her computer monitor around. A news article filled the screen. Amber Alert. 3-year-old girl missing after house fire in Hartford. Below it, a photo. A blonde girl in pigtails, maybe 3 years old, grinning at the camera. Yellow sundress. Stuffed elephant. Beside her, a Siberian husky puppy. Copper in cream coat. Blue eyes. Caroline's mouth went dry. That's Kodiak. Dr. Okonkwo zoomed in. Look at the marking on his left ear. That cream patch. It's identical. When was this? March 2023. 2 years ago. The vet pulled up another article. Fire started around 3 a.m. in a Hartford apartment. The girl, Beatrice Morrison, lived with her grandmother. By the time firefighters arrived, the 3rd floor was engulfed. Caroline couldn't breathe. Did they find her? Silence answered. They never found a body. Fire was too intense. They found her hospital ID bracelet in the rubble. Nothing else. Dr. Okonkwo pulled up another document. The dog was found 3 days later, 12 miles away. Burn pause. Smoke inhalation. Trying to run back toward Hartford. You think he was Beatrice's dog? I know he was. The grandmother filed a missing pet report. Description matches perfectly. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward. Mrs. Peterson, what time does his behavior start? Around 3 a.m. The 911 call came in at 3:11 a.m. The room tilted. Your daughter looks exactly like Beatrice Morrison. The vet continued. Blonde hair, same age, same size. And you've put her in a bedroom. Her voice gentled. He's not stealing toys. He's evacuating them. He's trying to get everything out before 3:11 a.m. because that's when he thinks the fire starts. Caroline's voice cracked. He failed to save her, and now he's desperate not to fail again. Dr. Okonkwo prescribed anti-anxiety medication, gave her a referral for a behavioral specialist, used words like trauma response and environmental triggers, and then, quietly, Mrs. Peterson, there's something else. Dogs with this level of trauma, they're not always hallucinating danger. Sometimes they're sensing real patterns we miss. What are you saying? I'm saying if Kodiak smells smoke, you should probably believe him. Caroline sat in her car for 20 minutes after, unable to turn the key, the vet's words echoing. Sometimes they're sensing real patterns we miss. Caroline couldn't sleep that night. At 2 a.m., she gave up and opened her laptop. She typed, Beatrice Morrison Hartford Fire 2023. Dozens of articles appeared. Old apartment building, 1940s construction, faulty wiring suspected. Beatrice's grandmother, Margaret Morrison, had smelled smoke, tried to reach Beatrice's bedroom, but flames spread too fast. The last anyone saw of Beatrice Morrison was her grandmother screaming her name from the sidewalk. Caroline clicked Margaret's obituary. Died 6 months after the fire. Heart attack. Moved to Connecticut to be closer to family. Moved to Connecticut. Caroline's pulse quickened. She pulled up property records for their address. Previous owner, Margaret Morrison. Deceased. No. Caroline clicked deeper. Margaret purchased the house 2.5 years ago. Lived there 6 months. Died of cardiac arrest in the home. Caroline pulled up the estate sale, listing photos. Margot's bedroom, the one with the large window, the northeast corner closet, had been a child's room in the listing. Pink walls. Toddler bed. Toy chest in the same corner where Kodiak's bed now sat. She zoomed in on a photo. On the dresser, a framed picture. Slightly blurry, but clear enough. A blonde girl in pigtails, holding a stuffed elephant. Beatrice. Margaret Morrison had recreated her granddaughter's bedroom here, in this house, in the room where Margot now slept. And Kodiak had lived here, with Margaret. After the fire, Caroline pulled up Margaret's death certificate. Date, March 11th, 2024. Time, 3:11 a.m. Exactly 1 year after the fire. Kodiak wasn't just reliving Beatrice's death. He was reliving them both. Both little girls. Both at 3:11 a.m. In that exact room. Caroline closed her laptop with shaking hands and walked to Margot's doorway. Her daughter slept peacefully, Mr. Patches tucked under her chin. Kodiak lay in the corner, eyes open, watching. "You're not crazy," Caroline whispered to him. "You're not broken. You just try to save her." The dog's tail thumped once. But Caroline couldn't shake Dr. Okonkwo's words. "If Kodiak smells smoke, you should believe him. What if the wiring in this house, the same house where Margaret died, the same room Beatrice's bedroom had been recreated in, what if it was just as old, just as faulty, just as dangerous as the Hartford apartment? What if Kodiak wasn't reliving the past? What if he was predicting the future?" Caroline waited until Brooks left for work. Waited until Margot was at her mother's house. Then she stood in Margot's doorway, staring at Kodiak's bed in the corner. She had to know. She crossed the room and knelt. Kodiak watched from the hallway, drowsy from his new medication, but alert enough to know what she was doing. Caroline lifted his bed. Underneath, a collection that stopped her heart. Mr. Patches, hair clips, slippers, plastic bracelet, building blocks, the farm animal book, toy keys, Margot's favorite dress, 7 pairs of socks, arranged in a perfect circle. Protective, deliberate, and in the center, something that didn't belong to Margot. A child's inhaler, pink, covered in faded stickers, unicorns, rainbows, a sparkly star. Written in permanent marker, Beatrice Morrison, age 3. The inhaler slipped through Caroline's fingers, clattered on the floor. This was impossible. Beatrice had disappeared 2 years ago in a fire. This should have burned. Why was it here? Under her dog's bed? 3 explanations, each impossible. Kodiak carried it 12 miles after the fire. Someone planted it. Or Beatrice had been in this house. Caroline grabbed the inhaler, checked the prescription label with trembling hands. Hartford Family Pharmacy. Filled, March 10th, 2023. 4 days before the fire. She called the pharmacy. "I need to verify a prescription for Beatrice Morrison." Hold music. Her heart hammered. "Ma'am, that prescription was picked up March 10th, 2023. Is there an issue?" "No. Thank you." Caroline hung up and stared at Kodiak. "How did you get this?" Then another thought struck, one that froze her blood. Margaret had purchased this house in September 2023. 6 months after the fire. Margaret had adopted Kodiak from the rescue, brought him here, recreated Beatrice's room, and Margaret had died here. In this room, Caroline pulled up the death certificate again. March 11th, 2024. Time, 3:11 a.m. Exactly 1 year after the fire. To the minute. Kodiak had lived through both. The fire that took Beatrice. The heart attack that took Margaret. Both at 3:11 a.m. Both involving little girls he loved. Both in rooms he couldn't save them from. No wonder he was desperate. No wonder he paced at night. No wonder he was evacuating Margot's room piece by piece. He'd failed twice. And he knew, somehow, he knew, that 3:11 a.m. was when bad things happened to little blonde girls in bedrooms. Caroline looked at the inhaler in her hand, then at the dog who'd kept it safe for 2 years. "You're not trying to save Beatrice," she whispered. "You're trying to save Margot from becoming Beatrice." Kodiak's ears flattened, because he could already smell what Caroline couldn't yet. Somewhere in the walls, behind the paint and plaster, old wiring was heating up, just like it had in Hartford, just like it had 2 years ago. And 3:11 a.m. was coming. Caroline called the Hartford Fire Marshal's office from her car, too shaken to stay in the house. "Fire Marshal Caruso. My name is Caroline Peterson. I need information about a fire from March 2023. Beatrice Morrison. Hartford. I remember that case." His voice dropped. "What?" Caroline explained. The dog, the behavior, the inhaler, everything. When she finished, silence stretched. "We determined it was electrical. Knob and tube, wiring in the walls. Building was from 1952, never updated. Fire started around 3 a.m. in the wall cavity behind the child's bedroom. Could that happen in another old house? Absolutely. Knob and tube is a ticking time bomb. If it overloads, if insulation degrades, he paused. Why? My house was built in 1924. Jesus. When's the last time you had electrical inspected? 3 years ago when we bought it. Inspector said everything was fine. Inspectors miss things, especially wiring hidden behind renovations. His tone sharpened. Mrs. Peterson, if you have any reason to suspect old wiring, get an electrician today. I've seen what happens when people wait. Caroline called 4 electricians. 3 were booked. The 4th, Marelli Electric, could come that afternoon. It's an emergency, Caroline said. I have a 3-year-old. 2 o'clock. She picked Margot up early, held her too tight. Too squishy, Mama. Sorry, baby. Her mother noticed. What's wrong? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. Caroline buckled Margot in. Mom, if I call tonight, can you take Margot? You're scaring me. Can you? Of course. But Caroline, I'll call you later. Pete Morelli arrived at 2:15 with his apprentice, both carrying thermal imaging equipment. You said this is emergency? I need to know if there's old wiring. Knob and tube, especially in the bedrooms. The older man exchanged a glance with his apprentice. Ma'am, house this age definitely has old wiring somewhere. Question is whether it's still active. They started in the attic. Caroline waited downstairs with Margot, trying to act normal. Kodiak sat at the stairs base, head tilted up, listening. 30 minutes later, Pete came down. His face told everything. Active knob and tube throughout the second floor. Behind walls, under insulation. Whoever renovated just built over it. Caroline's legs weakened. Is it dangerous? It's a miracle you haven't had a fire. The bedroom above the kitchen. Princess wallpaper. It's running hot. Real hot. Thermal camera shows heat signatures that shouldn't exist. That's my daughter's room. His expression darkened. Nobody sleeps there tonight. I'm shutting off the breaker now. You need a full rewire, and you need it yesterday. How long has it been like this? Could be years. Could be getting worse daily. Old insulation breaks down, wires get exposed, heat builds. He headed to the basement. This is exactly how house fires start. Caroline followed, watched him flip the breaker. Margot's nightlight upstairs went dark. I can start tomorrow morning. But tonight, that room stays empty and that breaker stays off. Understand? Caroline nodded. After they left, she called Brooks. Come home. I'm in the middle. The house is faulty wiring. Margot's room is a fire hazard. He shut off the power. Silence. Then, I'm leaving now. That evening they moved Margot into the guest room. Margot cried for a princess wallpaper. Just tonight, sweetheart. They're fixing something special. Kodiak lay in the hallway between both bedrooms. One eye on Margot, one toward her old room. At midnight, Caroline couldn't sleep. She sat with Kodiak, both keeping watch. You knew all along, she whispered. His tail thumped once. At 3:07 a.m., Kodiak lurched up, ears flat, growling low. Caroline snapped awake. What? The power was off in Margot's room. The electrician had shut it down. So why did she smell smoke? Caroline was already running when Brooks bolted from their bedroom. She burst into the guest room. Margot. Now. But Kodiak wasn't there. He was at Margot's old bedroom, clawing the door, howling. Kodiak, no. There's nothing. Brooks swept Margot from bed. Go. Get her out. But Caroline smelled it. Real smoke. Not from Margot's room. From downstairs. She ran to the staircase. Orange light flickered in the kitchen. Flames crawled up curtains, spreading fast. Brooks. Kitchen fire. He ran for the front door with Margot. Caroline grabbed her phone, dialed. But Kodiak was still at Margot's door, still clawing. Kodiak, come. He wouldn't move. Then Caroline remembered. The gasoline cans. 2 of them. In Margot's closet. Left there 6 months ago. If fire reached those cans. 911. What's your emergency? Fire. 47. Birch Lane, Greenwich. Gas cans upstairs, if it reaches them. Ma'am, evacuate immediately. Caroline dropped the phone. Smoke poured up the stairwell, thick and black. She yanked Margot's door open. Smoke rushed in. She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, felt her way to the closet. The cans were heavy. Full. She grabbed one, stumbled back. Kodiak took the handle in his teeth. No, Kodiak. But he was dragging it away from the stairs, toward the master bedroom, toward the window over the garage. He'd mapped this. Every night. Evacuation routes. Caroline grabbed the second can and followed through smoke that stole her vision, trusting her dog to know the way. The window. Fresh air. She shoved both cans onto the roof, climbed through. Kodiak jumped. She followed. Firefighters below. Hands reaching. Ladder appearing. Strong arms helped her down. Brooks stood on the lawn with Margot wrapped in a blanket, crying for Caroline. "I'm here, baby. I'm okay." They held each other and watched their house burn. Kodiak sat between them, calm now, watchful, because everyone he loved was safe. The fire chief approached an hour later, after flames were out. "We've determined the cause. Kitchen wall behind the stove. Electrical." He consulted notes. "The bedroom upstairs. We shut that circuit down yesterday, correct?" "Yes. That was one danger zone. But you had bad wiring throughout. Kitchen circuit overloaded tonight." He paused. "What made you remove those gas cans? That saved lives. If those had ignited, we'd be looking at multiple fatalities." Caroline looked at Kodiak. "I didn't remove them until after the fire started." The chief stared. "Then how did your dog know they were there?" Brooks spoke, voice hollow. "He's been trying to evacuate that room for 3 weeks. Every item. Every night. We thought he was stealing toys. He was saving our daughter," Caroline finished. The chief looked at Kodiak for a long moment. 26 years doing this job. Never seen anything like that. Neither had Caroline. But she was about to discover something that would change everything she thought she knew. Because that afternoon, a reporter from the Hartford Courant approached her at the hotel. "Mrs. Peterson, I covered the Morrison fire 2 years ago. That dog, is that the same one? From the Hartford case?" "Yes." "Why?" The reporter pulled out her phone, showed Caroline a photo. A little blonde girl. Maybe 6 years old now. Very much alive. Beatrice Morrison didn't die in that fire. She was at a neighbor's apartment when it happened. There was a bureaucratic error. She was listed as missing when she was actually in foster care the whole time. The reporter's eyes were gentle. "Mrs. Peterson, that dog has been trying to save a little girl who never needed saving. Because she survived." Caroline sat in the hotel room, staring at the photo on the reporter's phone. Beatrice Morrison. Alive. Margaret. Her grandmother. She never knew. Caroline's voice cracked. By the time someone realized the error, Margaret had already died. Heart attack. The system failed them both. The reporter pulled up another article. "Beatrice is in foster care in Massachusetts. Good family. They're planning to adopt her." Caroline looked at Kodiak, sleeping at Margot's feet. He'd carried trauma for a death that never happened. Spent 2 years preparing for a fire that already occurred. Watched Margaret die, believing Beatrice was gone. And now he'd saved Margot from the same fate. Actual death from actual fire. Using instinct honed by false tragedy. "Does Beatrice remember him?" Caroline asked. "Her foster mother says she has nightmares about fire. In them, a dog tries to pull her away. She draws pictures of him." The reporter hesitated. "Would you consider, they live 2 hours from here. The foster family, the Hoffmans, they're good people. Beatrice asks about the dog sometimes." Caroline looked at Brooks. He nodded slowly. "Yes," Caroline said. "Yes, I think they need to meet." The reporter made the call. Ellen Hoffman answered, and when Caroline explained who she was, who Kodiak was, the woman started crying. "She talks about him. We thought it was trauma memory, but she was never in the fire. We didn't understand. She remembers him trying to save her before the fire," Caroline said quietly. "Dogs know things we don't." They arranged to meet the following Saturday at a park in Hartford. That week moved slowly. The insurance adjuster confirmed 6 months of repairs. They'd stay with Caroline's mother temporarily. Margot asked every day when they'd see Beatrice. "Saturday, baby. Is Cody going to live with her?" Caroline knelt, held Margot's face. "No, Cody's our family. But he's Beatrice's family too. So we share." Margot seemed satisfied. On Friday night, Caroline couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about 2 little girls. One who'd survived, one who'd been saved, connected by a dog who turned loss into purpose. At 3:11 a.m., Kodiak woke. Checked on Margot. Lay back down. Not frantic anymore. Just watchful. The park was empty when they arrived Saturday morning. Caroline brought Brooks and Margot. Kodiak stayed close, alert but calm. Then a car pulled up. A couple stepped out. Ellen and David Hoffman, mid-40s, warm smiles. They held the hands of a little girl. Beatrice was 6 now, taller than in the photos, but unmistakably the same child. Blonde hair and a ponytail, blue eyes scanning the parking lot. She saw Kodiak and stopped breathing. "Mom, that's him." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's the fire dog." Ellen squeezed her hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. He's safe." But Beatrice didn't move. "He couldn't save me before. Maybe he can't save anyone." Margot stepped forward, surprising everyone. She walked right up to Beatrice. "He saved me," Margot said simply. "Our house had a fire. Cody got me out. He's a really good dog." Beatrice looked at Margot. Same age, same hair color, like looking in a mirror. "You had a fire too?" Margot nodded. "Cody smelled it before anyone else. He knew, and he made sure I was safe." Beatrice's eyes welled. "I dream about fire, and he's always there, trying to pull me away. But I wake up before he can." "That's because he did pull you away," Caroline said gently, kneeling. "Before the fire even started. He got you somewhere safe. Your grandmother sent you to the neighbors that night, didn't she?" Beatrice nodded. "Kodiak knew. Dog sense things. He made sure you weren't in that apartment when the fire came. And then he spent 2 years making sure it never happened again." David's voice was thick. "We didn't know how to help her with the nightmares. We thought, he can help," Caroline said. "If you'll let him." Beatrice took 3 tentative steps toward Kodiak. The husky stayed perfectly still, tail low, waiting. She stopped 3 feet away. "Do you remember me?" Kodiak's nose lifted, scenting the air. His ears pricked forward. Then something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, memory, relief. He moved toward her slowly, carefully, like approaching something precious and fragile. When Beatrice's hand touched his fur, Kodiak's legs trembled. He pressed his face against her chest, and the sound that came from him wasn't a whine. It was 2 years of carrying unbearable weight finally releasing. Beatrice wrapped her arms around his neck and sobbed. "You're okay. I thought you died. I thought everyone died." "He's okay," Margot said, coming to stand beside them. "And you're okay. And I'm okay." Cody made sure. The 2 girls sat on either side of Kodiak, both petting him, both talking quietly. Caroline watched her dog look back and forth between them, like he couldn't believe they were both real. Both alive. Both safe. Brooks's arm went around her shoulders. "He did it. He actually did it. He saved them both," Caroline whispered. "Just not the way anyone expected." They stayed for 2 hours. The families exchanged numbers. Beatrice asked if Kodiak could come to her birthday party. "Of course," Caroline said. As they prepared to leave, Beatrice hugged Kodiak one more time. "Thank you for keeping Margot safe. And for trying to keep me safe. You're the best dog ever." Kodiak's tail wagged, really wagged, for the first time in weeks. In the car, Margot fell asleep holding Mr. Patches. Caroline watched Kodiak in the rearview mirror. His eyes were closed. Actually closed. For the first time since they'd adopted him, he looked at peace. 6 months later, the house was rebuilt. New wiring, fresh paint, updated everything. Margot's bedroom had a photo on the dresser. Margot and Beatrice at the park, Kodiak between them. The families met monthly now. Beatrice was doing better, fewer nightmares, more smiles. Her adoption would be finalized in the spring. Margot and Beatrice had become real friends, sisters by choice. They played together, did sleepovers, made plans. And Kodiak watched over both. One Saturday, both families gathered at the Peterson house for the first time since the fire. Beatrice walked through nervously, but Kodiak stayed close, and she relaxed. They played in the backyard while the adults talked. "The therapist says seeing Kodiak has helped more than anything else we've tried," Ellen said. "The nightmares have almost stopped." "Margot's too," Caroline added. "She used to wake up scared. Now she says Cody's watching, so everything's okay." That evening, after the Hoffmans left, Caroline found Kodiak in Margot's doorway at bedtime. "You can go in, boy. It's safe now." But Kodiak stayed in the hall. Not because he was afraid, because this was his post. At 3:11 a.m., Caroline woke to check on him out of habit. He was awake but calm. He looked at Margot's door, then at the guest room where Beatrice stayed over sometimes. Both empty tonight, but he checked anyway. Then he lay down, head on his paws, and closed his eyes. Not sleeping, never quite sleeping, but resting. Caroline sat beside him in the dark hallway. "You kept your promise. Both of them are safe." His tail thumped twice. She scratched behind his ears, and for just a moment, She felt what he must feel, the weight of two little girls sleeping soundly, the relief of promises kept, the peace that comes from knowing you didn't fail this time. You saved them. Both of them. Caroline was cleaning out the garage when she found it. The box from the estate sale. She'd packed it away when they moved in, meaning to sort through it later, then forgotten. Inside, Margaret Morrison's belongings. Photos. Letters. A journal. Caroline opened the journal to the last entry. March 10th, 2024. 1 year tomorrow since I lost her. 1 year since the fire took my Beatrice. I dream about her every night. Her laugh, her little hands, the way she called me Mimi. The dog dreams too. I hear him pacing at 3 a.m., the same time it happened. We're both haunted by the same ghost. I brought Kodiak here because he was hers, and keeping him alive keeps part of her alive. I recreated her room exactly as it was. Sometimes I pretend she's just at school, that she'll walk through the door any minute. The doctor says my heart is weak. I tell him my heart broke a year ago, and broken things don't heal right. If something happens to me, I hope Kodiak finds a good home. He deserves better than two grief-stricken souls haunting each other in a house full of memories. He tried to save her, you know. The neighbor told me, the night of the fire, before it even started, Kodiak wouldn't leave Beatrice alone. Kept nudging her, whining. That's why I sent her to Mrs. Patterson's apartment, because he was so agitated I thought Beatrice was getting sick. He knew. Somehow he knew. He saved her from the fire. He just didn't know it. And neither did I. The entry ended there. Caroline closed the journal, tears streaming. Margaret had died believing she'd lost Beatrice. Had never known her granddaughter survived. Had never known Kodiak's agitation that night. The behavior she'd thought was random had actually saved Beatrice's life. He'd succeeded the first time. He just never knew it. And that not knowing, that sense of failure, had driven him to save Margot with an urgency born from believing he'd already failed once. Caroline looked at Kodiak, sleeping in a patch of sun. You were never broken, she whispered. You were always a hero. You just didn't know it. She placed the journal back in a box and made a decision. Beatrice deserved to know the truth. They all did. Caroline invited the Hoffmans over the following weekend. After the girls were playing outside, she showed them Margaret's journal. Ellen read the last entry twice, tears falling. She never knew. Beatrice was alive the whole time, and Margaret died thinking she'd lost her. And Kodiak saved Beatrice that night, David added quietly. His agitation. That's why Margaret sent Beatrice to the neighbor's apartment. He sensed the fire coming. He succeeded, Caroline said. He just never knew it. So when he came to live with us and saw Margot, same age, same look, same bedroom, his mind connected it. He thought he was getting a second chance. But he'd already succeeded the first time, Ellen whispered. They told Beatrice that afternoon, sat her down, and explained everything. How Kodiak had been restless the night of the fire, how that restlessness had made her Mimi send her to the neighbors, how he'd actually saved her life before the fire even started. Beatrice was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked to where Kodiak lay in the sun and sat beside him. You did save me, she said softly. I just didn't know. And you didn't know. But you did. She pressed her face into his fur. Thank you for saving me the first time. And thank you for saving Margot the second time. You're not just a good dog. You're the best dog ever. That evening, both families sat in the backyard while the girls played. The sun set golden and warm. At exactly 3:11 p.m., the time Kodiak always woke at night, Margot called from the swing set. Mama, look, Cody's playing. Caroline looked up. Kodiak was running. Actually running. Chasing a ball Beatrice had thrown, his tail wagging, his movements loose and free. Not pacing. Not watching. Not preparing. Playing. Brooks grabbed Caroline's hand. I've never seen him do that. He's free, Caroline said, wiping tears. He finally understands. He didn't fail. He never failed. At 3:11 a.m. that night, Kodiak slept through for the first time since they'd known him. No pacing. No checking. No preparing. Just sleep. Deep, peaceful, earned sleep. The sleep of someone who'd kept every promise, saved every life, and finally, knew it. Some promises are kept in fire. Some in midnight vigilance. Some in refusing to fail twice, even when the first time was never a failure at all. Kodiak taught two families that trauma doesn't define us. How we carry it does. that broken things don't stay broken. They transform, strengthen, become something more than they were, not despite the cracks, but because of them. We all carry scars. We all have moments we'd rewrite. But like Kodiak, we choose what we do with that weight. We can let it destroy us, or let it drive us to make sure no one else suffers what we suffered. This is the story of a dog who turned loss into purpose, who heard danger no one else could hear, who saved two little girls because he remembered losing one, except he never lost her at all. The greatest wounds become the greatest strengths. The deepest grief becomes the fiercest protection. And love, real, unbreakable love, that's the force that changes everything. At 3:11 a.m. now, Kodiak sleeps. Two families sleep safely. And somewhere in the space between what we fear and what we overcome, miracles happen. Not because we're unbroken, but because we refuse to let broken be the end of the story. Caroline checks on Margot one last time before bed. Her daughter sleeps peacefully, Mr. Patches tucked under her chin. Kodiak lies at the foot of the bed, not watching, just present. His eyes are closed. His breathing is deep and even. The clock on the nightstand reads 3:11 a.m. And for the first time in 2 years, nothing happens. Because everything that needed saving has been saved. Every promise that needed keeping has been kept. And every hero who thought he failed finally knows the truth. He never failed at all.